simply means is instruction or teaching. That is actually what it means. As a matter of fact, if you go into the Old Testament, because oftentimes when people talk about doctrine, they would always bring the New Testament. But I'm sorry to break the case. I want to go to the Old Testament and start from there. The word doctrine itself in the Old Testament is strictly instruction. I don't want to start quoting the Hebrew word, let's leave all of that. But it's strictly instruction. And so when we mention sound doctrine, the word sound, looking at the semantics itself, is the one qualifying that sound doctrine. So what makes the teaching or the instruction sound is, or what tells whether it's a sound doctrine or not, is we are qualifying it with an adjective as to a sound or not sound, sound or false. But it is strictly teaching. However, historically, it began to take form. It began to build. And so we now have what we call a corpus, as it were, of what is a doctrine of the Christian faith. It's why I'm sorry, I know most of us have heard that Christianity is not a religion, and I agree with them. But I'm here to tell you that Christianity is both religion and is also not a religion. The two is correct. What makes for a religion is that there is a body of beliefs, a body of teaching, a body of instruction. It is what the apostles were saying, contend for the faith which was delivered unto the saints. That is that solid instruction that the apostles received from Christ, that was handed over. Paul was writing to Timothy, he said, labor, get people that you will also hand such to, so that those words will be handed over. So when you have a system of belief like that, that goes from one person to another, that is religion. Christianity as a body of belief. As a matter of fact, you cannot claim to be a Christian and you don't believe in the coming, the ministry and the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. You are a Christian. I'm sorry to say, without sense of humility, any person who calls himself a Christian, who does not believe that Jesus is God or Jesus Christ is both the Messiah, is Christ, he does not believe in Trinity, you are not a Christian. It is foundational to our belief. It is one of those, and there are a lot of them. You have to believe in the coming, in the second coming. You have to believe in the resurrection of the dead. Paul took time in 1 Corinthians 15 to flog that matter. If you don't believe in the resurrection of the dead, you cannot claim to be a Christian. It's one of our greatest problems. We change. While we change, we give names and we change names. However, while the word of God is eternal, forever your word is settled in heaven. The instruction of God, the law of God, the systems, the testimonies of God are ever the same in all generations. And so because it is ever the same in all generations, but our understanding of it has changed because our language, for instance, has changed. What we call, what we use, the way we use English now is not the same way they used English. And they did not even start English. English is fairly a young language. Latin, Hebrew, even the same Hebrew now, we are old Hebrew. I didn't get what I'm trying to say. So you must understand that when Jesus said this word to them, for instance, he used some language, he used some word. That word that he used, if we must understand what he has said, if we want to understand his message or the instruction, the doctrine he gave them, we must understand what Jesus actually said or what he meant. And in doing that, we have to understand the word he used. So what we call today as a synoptic gospel, I hope I'm not boring us. I hope I'm not, it's because this is a very, that's I will have packed a joke, but because this is a very, it's not a good question, I cannot pack a joke now. Now, don't forget that what you call the synoptic gospel is people first-hand witnesses. It was even when Jesus was alive that they were writing. I know you guys watch The Chosen, and in The Chosen, Matthew was penning in that. That is not what happened. Matthew was not there. He was not penning it down. Thank you, sir. Matthew was not now and following Jesus, every one of them followed him, and there was a recounting. Look at the one. Luke was not even one of the apostles, and then Luke was only writing his own synoptic gospel to a person, Theophilus. He said in his writing, "Oh, excellent Theophilus." Why was Luke to write Acts? He said, "The former writers have I written to you." So Luke was right. He was like, we heard. He's like, oh, there was an oral tradition. We know that there was a man that day. He's like, I'm sorry to say, he's like, you know about Jesus Oyibo or Jesus Agege. Okay. So now you know Jesus Agege, and in Jesus Agege did some things. Now you know what to. He has said he has gone from understand. Now you want to now recount what he did. You now started to pen it down. You now go to the first witness, people that were there, and then that's also happened. They wrote from there, and then they started writing and they were sending it. So those are the body of instructions. Now, if I'm going to now answer the second question or that second question, it is important that we know this. Now, listen to this. I made a premise yesterday when I was talking, and the premise was this. The word "and" in the Old Testament, or a lot of words in the Old Testament, and now, things like that, are not just joining two sentences. They can literally be joining two events that are years and thousands of years apart. Started to Genesis 3 and said, now the serpent, it didn't mean it was not chronological. It was not what happened after Genesis chapter 2. It is anachronistic to prove that what happened in Genesis chapter 3 followed Genesis chapter 2. In the same way, that's why you see that in the world of biblical scholarship, people can tell you that